Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Today, we're looking at one of the absolute most intense, philosophically dense, and honestly just gripping moments from ancient literature, the trial of Draupadi. We're going to break down the text to really understand the dynamics of power, justice, and what happens when people stay silent in the face of absolute wrong. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine the scene for a second. We're dropping right into the middle of this chaotic, violent event. Draupadi, who is a queen, has literally just been violently dragged into an assembly room, packed with the most powerful men in the kingdom. And she's dragged there by a man named Dussasana. The source text doesn't hold back at all, stating directly, "Dragged forcibly by this wretch's strong arms, I was deprived of my senses." The visceral shock of this moment, it's absolutely meant to stagger you. A royal woman is being subjected to severe physical abuse in the exact place where law and justice are supposed to be upheld. Unbelievable, right? Section 1. The public humiliation. So, the text describes Draupadi as afflicted and helpless, actually falling to the ground and weeping in the assembly. But here's the thing, she isn't just crying in pure despair. She is acutely aware of the horrific contrast of her situation. Think about her past. She was this highly protected queen in her palace, someone who, as the text puts it, even the winds and the sun had seen never before. Now, she's thrust into this terrifying reality, completely exposed to the gaze of the crowd. This severe disparity brilliantly highlights the profound degradation she's being forced to endure. I mean, in a single instant, she goes from a revered, highly protected status to being made a public spectacle completely against her will. And Draupadi herself recognizes that something is fundamentally broken here. She looks at the assembly and says, "It seemeth that the times are out of joint." She's pointing out to these silent elders that the eternal, ancient usage, the tradition where kings absolutely never brought their wedded wives into the public court, has completely disappeared. It's like the basic rules of decency and virtue that these kings were historically famous for have just vanished into thin air. Section 2. Draupadi's moral interrogation. Now, what is truly remarkable here is that Draupadi doesn't just beg for mercy. Despite her immense distress, she completely pivots. She launches this highly structured, brilliant legal interrogation aimed right at the men in power. Let's walk through exactly how she builds this unassailable courtroom argument, step by step. First, she firmly establishes who she is. She reminds the room, hey, I am high-born, chaste, the wedded wife of King Yudhishthira from this very same noble dynasty. Second, she calls out the glaring failure of the Kauravas, and actually even her own husbands, the Pandavas, for letting her be seized by a mean wretch who is actively destroying their family name. And finally, step 3, she goes on the offensive. She demands that these kings definitively define her legal status. She absolutely corners the assembly with these words. "Tell me now if I am a serving maid or otherwise. I will cheerfully accept your answer." Think about that. By saying she will cheerfully accept their verdict, she is backing them into a corner, forcing them to take a definitive, public, legal stance on her abuse. She is daring them to speak the injustice out loud. She's effectively trapping them in their own hypocrisy. And then she drops the ultimate legal trap. Am I one or unwon? I want you to really ponder the impossible position these kings are in right now. Seriously, think about it. If they say she is unwon, well, then this assault is entirely illegal, and they're openly allowing a heinous crime against a free queen. But if they say she is one, they have to publicly admit that a king can just gamble away a free woman, which completely strips away any illusion of their supposed righteousness. It's a flawless, logical checkmate. Section 3. The subtlety of morality. So, facing this undeniable, razor-sharp logic, the patriarch of the family, Bhishma, finally speaks. And his response takes a highly analytical, yet profoundly haunting turn. He essentially deflects her unanswerable question by redefining the terms. He claims that morality itself is a subtle, intricate course, and that even the illustrious wise in this world fail to always understand it. He's basically saying, well, the issue is just too complex to give a simple yes or no. It's that classic evasion tactic, right? The one so often used by those in power when they're confronted with an inconvenient, brutal truth. And this brilliantly illustrates the chilling, realpolitik core of Bhishma's worldview. Take a look at this. When a strong man dictates something, he defines morality on his own terms, and it's readily accepted as morality by others, no matter how wrong it might actually be. But when a weak man makes a claim, even if he calls upon the highest, truest morality, it is scarcely regarded as morality at all by the rest of the world. Let's just sit with his exact words for a moment. What in this world a strong man calls morality is regarded as such by others, however otherwise it may really be. Wow, that is a heavy, deeply cynical admission from the text. Bhishma, the elder famously known for his wisdom, is outright admitting that in their society, might makes right. The objective truth, it doesn't matter. The raw power of the person speaking does. Section 4. When leaders fail. Then those in power subscribe to this cynical view of morality and refuse to act justly in the face of obvious abuse. The consequences are catastrophic. Bhishma wraps up his speech with a pretty grim set of observations. He declares that all the Kurus have become slaves to covetousness and folly. Because of this total moral collapse, he actually prophesies that the destruction of their entire race will happen on no distant date. And yet, incredibly, after all this dire warning, he still refuses to give Draupadi a direct answer. Claiming the issue is just too intricate, he completely defers the final verdict to Yudhishthira. He sees the doom approaching, but still completely washes his hands of the immediate injustice. However, even through his evasion, Bhishma can't help but acknowledge Draupadi's incredible strength of character. He tells her, "Sunk in distress, thou still castest thy eyes on virtue and morality." He admits this conduct is assuredly worthy of her. Think about it. She is literally the only one in the entire room actually upholding the principles that these kings falsely claim to stand for. Then, Bhishma draws attention to the rest of the elders in the room. He points out, these persons, Drona and others, sit heads downwards, like men that are dead, with bodies from which life hath departed. What a haunting, powerful image from the text. These are the supposed wise men, right? The pillars of the community, and they are completely paralyzed. This perfectly captures the silence of the complicit, those who witness a blatant, violent injustice right in front of their eyes, but do absolutely nothing to stop it. So, we arrive at our final thought. Looking at this powerful ancient text, we really have to ask ourselves, when power dictates morality, who is actually on trial? Is it the victim seeking justice, or is it the silent leaders who fail to provide it? It really makes you wonder, where do we see the wise staying silent like this today? I hope this explainer gave you some deep insights into this incredible courtroom drama and the timeless questions it raises about justice, power, and complicity. Thanks for joining me, Focus Learners, and keep questioning the world around you.